At 82, Robert Niro finally speaks openly about the truth behind Robert Mitchum. Robert Niro was born on August 17, 1943 in Manhattan, New York City. When Robert Niro was born, the city was full of people, smart thinkers, and artists who liked to discuss their work. His parents were Virginia Admiral and Robert Niro Sr. They both loved art. Robert Niro's parents were much into the arts. His mother was an artist who painted and wrote poetry. She was very sensitive to feelings and words. This really affected her son. His father was a painter in New York. He was part of a group called the New York School. These painters were known for being intense and taking risks with their emotions. His parents got divorced when he was a kid. They both still had a big impact on him. They taught him to respect work and being true to his art. His mother, the painter and poet, and his father, the painter, were both important to him. They helped him learn to be disciplined and honest with his craft. Niro grew up in Manhattan, spent a lot of time in the exciting neighborhoods of Little Italy. He heard all the sounds, felt all the tensions and contradictions of city life in these places. This is how Niro learned about people and how they behave. People who work hard every day, people who are different, and people who are not always sure what is right or wrong. When Niro was a kid, people called him Bobby Milk because his skin was very pale. He was a kid who did not like to talk much. Acting helped Niro to express his feelings in a way. It was like a place where he could be himself and show his emotions honestly. Niro found that acting was something he really loved to do. The performance was a way for him to say things that he could not say in his life. It helped him to turn the things that made him feel weak into things that made him feel strong. Performance was really important for him because it allowed him to communicate the things that he could not communicate in life, and it helped to transform his vulnerability into strength. And that is what performance did for him. It turned his vulnerability into performance strength. Niro had to go through a lot of training. He studied with Stella Adler and Lee Strasberg, who were really big names in acting. Niro learned things from them, but they all worked together. Stella Adler taught him to use his imagination and understand how people feel. She also said it is important to know what is going on around a character. Lee Strasberg was about feeling things deeply and being true to yourself. He taught Niro that acting is not about pretending to feel something, it is about really feeling it. This is what Niro learned from them. This is what made him the actor he is today. He always tries to become the character he is playing. He wants to be real and true to the character. Niro's early film work in the 1960s and early 1970s was really something special. He worked with director Brian De Palma on movies like Greetings in 1968, Hi, Mom in 1970. Niro was not afraid to take on roles that were a little controversial or made people think about what's right and wrong. People who wrote about movies and made movies noticed Niro's performances. It was when he started working with Martin Scorsese that things really started to happen for Niro and for movies in general. Niro's work with Martin Scorsese would change Niro's life and the way people make movies. The first big movie that they worked on together was Mean Streets in 1973. This movie showed people Niro's acting as Johnny Boy. Johnny Boy is a character who's charming, but also very volatile and self-destructive. Niro's performance in Mean Streets was very raw. You never knew what was going to happen next. It really caught the feeling of life on the street. At the time, it showed how Johnny Boy was struggling inside, which felt very real. Mean Streets and Niro's performance as Johnny Boy really stood out. The Godfather Part 2 in 1974 was a deal for Niro. This is when his career really took off. He played the Vito Corleone, and he did a great job. Niro did not say a lot in the movie. He mostly spoke in Sicilian. He still showed that his character was important. He did this by the way he moved and stood and by being quiet at the times. Niro won an award for this role, the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. This made people see him as a talented actor. The Godfather Part 2 and other movies made Niro a big star in the 1970s and 1980s. He was in a lot of movies during this time, and he helped change the way American movies were made. Niro was really good at what he did. People still remember him as one of the best actors of his time. In the movie Taxi Driver that came out in 1976, Robert De Niro's performance as Travis Bickle showed what it is like to feel really alone and angry and have a lot of problems in your mind. He got ready for this role in a serious way. Robert De Niro actually worked as a taxi driver, and he really tried to understand what it is like to be alone all the time. The result was a character that was very disturbing and also very famous. This character changed the way actors perform in movies forever. Taxi Driver is a movie that people still talk about because of Robert De Niro's performance as Travis Bickle. In the movie Raging Bull that came out in 1980, Robert De Niro reached the top of his acting career. He played the role of boxer Jake LaMotta, and he did some extreme things to his body, like gaining and losing a lot of weight, so he could really get into character. The way he acted was very raw and honest. He won the Academy Award for Best Actor because of it. A lot of people who watch movies and make movies think that Raging Bull is the performance they have ever seen on film, and that is not just because of the big scenes, but because Robert De Niro was so open and honest with his emotions. Raging Bull and Robert De Niro's performance in Raging Bull are still talked about today. What really sets Robert De Niro apart is his range. He is famous for playing guys who are violent and have a lot of problems. He always does something unexpected. He does comedy well. You can see this in movies like Midnight Run. Analyze this. Meet the Parents. Robert De Niro is great at making people laugh. He is not afraid to make fun of himself. At the time, Robert De Niro keeps doing amazing jobs in serious movies, like The Deer Hunter, Once Upon a Time in America, Awakenings, Cape Fear, and Heat. Robert De Niro is really good at playing kinds of roles. The man's work showed that he really got people. He was able to make us feel things without being too much. His work was about being human. That is something we can all relate to. He understood that we are all vulnerable at times. The man's work was good at showing this vulnerability. As De Niro entered the stages of his career, he was still really good at what he did. Some of the things he chose to do were probably because they would make money. He never stopped caring about doing a good job. He kept working with Scorsese on movies like Casino, The Irishman, and Killers of the Flower Moon, which showed that he was still really great at acting in a way that felt real. In The Irishman, De Niro played Frank Sheeran. He did it in a way that was very quiet and sad, which proved that De Niro was an even better actor when he got older. De Niro's performance in The Irishman was really something, and it showed that De Niro was still a very talented actor. Robert De Niro's personal life is very complicated. It is all about his family. When he married the actress Diane Abbott in 1976, it made his life more stable during the time he was becoming really famous. Robert De Niro and Diane Abbott had a son named Raphael together. Robert De Niro also adopted Diane Abbott's daughter Drina. This made a bond that lasted forever. Robert De Niro had relationships later on, and this meant his family got even bigger, like when twins were born in 1995. Robert De Niro also married Grace Hightower. After they broke up and got back together, they had a daughter in 2011. Being a father is a part of who he is. It is like the feelings he shows when he plays characters. Fatherhood is very important to him. It is easy to see this when he acts out the roles of the characters he portrays. When you are 82 years old, you think about your life a lot. You want to talk about the people who helped you become the artist you're today. One person who really stands out is Robert Mitchum. I have always liked him. I never really talked about him before. Now, I think he has had an impact on the way I think about acting. I think Robert Mitchum is an actor who people did not really understand. They thought he just did not care. That is not true. He was actually very careful and disciplined. What people saw as him not trying hard was really him being very good at not showing too much emotion. Robert Mitchum knew that sometimes it is better to be and let the camera focus on you rather than trying to show how you feel all the time. De Niro liked Mitchum because Mitchum was confident in being simple. Mitchum did not try to get people to feel sorry for him or like him. He was okay with things being unclear. He trusted the people watching to be able to handle feeling uncomfortable. This is something that really meant a lot to De Niro, especially when he was working with Scorsese for the time. During that time, Niro saw that sometimes not saying anything and just being quiet was just as important as talking. Mitchum did not do things the way that Hollywood wanted him to. He did not like talking to the press. He made fun of people in charge. He did not like pretending to be something he was not. Even with all of this, Mitchum was still very good at his job, and Niro liked that about Mitchum. The man came to the job. He knew what he had to do. He did his work. He did not think that acting was more important than any other kind of work. The man was honest about what he did. He did not pretend that acting was something really special. He just did his job. That was it. Niro thinks Robert Mitchum is more amazing now than he used to. When Niro watches Robert Mitchum's movies, he notices that Robert Mitchum is often sad and tired. He does not say it out loud. Robert Mitchum just shows it in a way. Niro does the thing when he performs and tries to be quiet and restrained. What Niro thinks about Robert Mitchum is not rumors or trying to change what people think. It is just that Niro really respects Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum taught Niro that if something is real, it does not need to be announced. Robert Mitchum showed Niro that it is there. At 82, Robert Niro understands that legacy is built not on volume or spectacle, but on authenticity. In that sense, Robert Mitchum remains for him a master, an actor who spoke softly, carried no visible weight, and left an indelible mark on cinema.